broadcast crew, here today speaking to Wendy Kellington, an attorney specializing in unmanned aircraft and drones. Wendy, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me today.
We're very glad to have you here. And we're going to talk about a few issues, but I think what really is I'm going to focus on, what's been in the community a lot lately, is the Pirker decision. Now, the original Pirker decision, we're talking about Trappy here. As you'll recall, an administrative law judge said that the FAA had no authority to regulate him and therefore to slap him with a sanction after his flight around the West Virginia, or the University of Virginia Medical School. Mm-hmm. However, now the fall National Transportation Safety Board has ruled on appeal, and if that first Trappy decision gave us a new hope, I think now the empire is striking back.
I think that's right. I think that's right, Patrick. So in Trappy 2, that was issued on Tuesday, we learned that FAA does have the authority to regulate aircraft, and that model aircraft are indeed aircraft subject to FAA's jurisdiction.
Now, a lot of people in the FPV community, I mean, you go on the boards, you see this, are upset about this decision. They see this as a big setback for the FPV community. Do you share that analysis, that we've lost with Trappy 2 here?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because as you remember, Trappy 1 was a very big surprise to the FAA, and I think in truth to most of us. I think the idea that model aircraft are not really aircraft and are not subject to FAA's jurisdiction, and that the FAA doesn't have the authority to keep the National Airspace System safe at 1,500 feet was a big surprise. And so in response to the Pirker decision, Pirker 1, FAA gave us the interpretation of the special rule for model aircraft because it wanted to restore its authority. And it focused on the restoration of its authority in a variety of subsequent interpretations and memoranda and guidance documents that were very unpleasant for the modeling community. And so what Pirker 2 does is restores the agency's authority, its ability to keep the NAS safe, and I think probably it will now be able to focus on more constructive things with the modeling community.
So you're saying that although this is a defeat for a modeler in Trappy Pirker, this is actually a plus for the modeling community? Is that what you're saying?
I think it is. I think it is, because having the FAA mad and upset about its authority and wanting to do something to restore its authority is not a kind of warpath I think we want to have the FAA on with respect to modelers. I think we'd rather be kind of in the background conducting flying activities consistently with our community-based standards, doing the right thing, and not being front and center on the group that deprived FAA of the authority it always thought it had. I mean, look, we've had 3 very serious incidents between model aircraft and commercial airlines at JFK in the last 2 weeks.
Really?
Really. So it's important that FAA is able to protect the NAS, and that's certainly not AMA members, but they're model aircraft nevertheless, and if FAA did not have the authority to regulate that kind of conduct and to shut it down ASAP, who would?
Well, you make an excellent point. I mean, we travel by air, and I mean, almost everybody does. And I don't want a Phantom to get sucked into the turbine of my 737 any more than I want anybody else's. So, I mean, I think what's important here is that we in the modeling community, we demonstrate that we can be responsible. We can follow the AMA code or something like it, and and prove that we're safe, and therefore set ourselves apart from the from those rogue operators who are doing stuff which, I don't think any sensible person would endorse.
I think that's right. The one serious setback I think we get from Pirker 2 is that the AMA and other objectors who filed petitions challenging the interpretation of the special rule for model aircraft will have a difficult time now overturning that interpretation. Remember, the interpretation said that that in fact FAA does have the authority to govern the kinds of activities that model aircraft can engage in. It limited the kinds of activities, nothing for hire, no prizes, no contests, that sort of thing. And importantly to the community, no FPV as serving as the primary operator of the model aircraft. And of course, AMA challenged that as exceeding the agency's authority, and I think they'll have a very difficult time now winning that challenge, because the authority of the FAA to do all 3 of those things, I think, is fairly firmly established now by that decision.
Well, so what is the path forward now? I mean, we love FPV, and there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people out there across the United States who feel that way and love all this other stuff. How do we work this through then? What's the process from here?
So there are still a large group of AMA members and others who think that the best thing to do is to move forward with the challenge to the interpretation of the special rule and see where that leads, and that may be a fine way to move forward. But another constructive way I think that we should start thinking about moving forward is actually deciding that we should participate in rulemaking. To set the standards, set national standards for the manner in which FPV operations can occur. FAA currently has a ARC, an Advisory Rules Committee, that has been looking at autonomous operations outside of line of sight for some period of time. The problem is that organization is not populated with small UAV enthusiasts by and large, and it has been focused on getting the big aircraft from Class D airspace through Class A airspace, which is of course what RTCA focuses on. And there's a need to establish a small UAV community, small UAV rules about beyond line of sight operations, autonomous operations, FPV operations. So I think that AMA members should work on the significant efforts of at least two organizations that I'm aware of to get FAA to establish a small UAV rules committee, to establish rules by the end of 2015 about how and when FPV can be used as the primary operations model for model aircraft. That would be, Patrick Egan's group, the RPCA radio. Help me out here.
Okay, yeah. So you're saying there are two groups people should be paying attention to. One is the Radio Controlled Aerial Photography Association, or CAPA, that's how I've always pronounced it. And what's the other one?
The other one is the Small UAV Coalition that was launched in October of this year, is working hard to get the FAA to establish a rules committee, and I think AMA should follow that, get to know those people, and lend their voice to the chorus saying that that's an important committee to establish, and get a seat at the table, because you want to have a seat at the table for those rules. You have the expertise more than anybody else about how that works and how it doesn't work and where it works and the circumstances in which it works. So be a part of those committees. And I know that Patrick is working on that, and I know that the Small UAV Coalition is working on that, and I would encourage AMA to get involved in both of those efforts.
All right. Well, Wendy, thank you so much. This has been extremely informative, and we hope you'll come back and talk to us some more in the future, because heaven knows we're not going to run out of legal issues anytime soon.
No, we're not. And look for the small UAV rule to come out maybe by December 20th of this year.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it'll be, it won't include operations for line of sight, any of the things that we want, but watch for that. That'll be another step forward, and we'll talk about that when it comes out.
Okay, well, Wendy, thank you so much, and I'm sure we're not going to run out of topics to talk about anytime soon.
We'll hope you enjoy watching. See you next time.
All right. Fly safe out there. So.